time. Just a moment. And I would give the word firstly to the organizers to start it, shortly presenting myself. I'm Alena Karavai, the facilitator who will be just leading you through this workshop during the next 2.5 hours. Could we have some starting words from the organizers, please?
Yes, I can say a few words. Hello, everyone. Very pleased to have you here today. And I'm Olena Serbo. I'm from Tadus Think Tank, who is a partner organization of the Ukraine-Poland program. And we are actually engaged into the public forum program of this program this year, and during this year already we had series of different events which were related to local development, because this topic is the topic of Ukraine Calling program this year. We already had the discussion on regional policies, and we had also an article on regional policies in Ukraine. And we also had an international networking also connected to this topic, and also another masterclass which was related to the urban social movements. And right already this week we had an event about the connection and influence of universities on the local development. So right now we will have this masterclass about fundraising and different practical issues and challenges related to fundraising. And I am very excited about this masterclass, because this topic is really something that is very interesting for me personally. So wish you a nice masterclass, and then I will pass the word. I don't know if Stefan or Joanna would like to say something, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Alena, and I will take over here. So my name is Johanna Hiebel, and together with my colleague, Stefan Henkel, we represent the cross-sectoral capacity building called Ukraine Calling, and we're also really pleased to be co-organizers of this event today. Ukraine Calling as such is a project-oriented program, which is located at the European University Viadrina in Frankfurt Oder, right at the borders or non-borders with Poland. And we're implementing this project together with various project partners, and among them is also CEDOS Think Tank, what we're really happy about, but as well also partners from France, from Belarus, from Ukraine again, and from Germany. And we also call this the Weimar Triangle Plus. And within that frame, our aim is to implement concrete project ideas and to support participating organizations which applied or which can apply for funding at the end of our program, that their project idea is at that state in the end. And that's why also the topic of the masterclass today suits pretty well to our program, because we've been through donor meetings, through budgeting, through impact measurement, and yeah, we're really happy to get this here. So yeah, thanks for putting the frames, and I will get back to you, Olena.
Thank you, Joanna. Or I think I will pass the word to Alena.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this warm welcoming. Thank you, CEDOS and Ukraine Calling, for organizing this workshop to a very important topic, which is, I think, like a pain topic for many organizations and many NGO people. And right now, here in Zoom, we're already 30 people for you people on Facebook to know. And before starting with our experts, we also would like to see shortly who is here, who are those people who joined this workshop. And at the first, I would like to ask you to do a very traditional thing you do when you join any Zoom session, which is to write in the chat your name, organization, and country. Only we people in Zoom will see it, just for us to get an idea where you're coming from, also for our experts to get an idea where you're coming from. And then, while you're doing that, we would also have a chance to give a floor to some 3-5 people of you to turn on the camera and to present yourself. Because we know people are very different. Somebody would rather not be turning on the camera and speaking, but somebody would be ready to do that, to show yourself with your face. We would be very happy to see some of you presenting yourself here in the room and also telling shortly where you're coming from. So we already see in the chat, we have people from Syrius, Ukraine, of course, from Belarus, from Kiev, from Germany. And I'm just encouraging those of you who are already probably with their cameras turned on, just to present yourself shortly and to say why you're joining this workshop. Come on, guys, it's not hurting. Just tell us a few words about yourself. I see the person here who is also has the same name as me, Alena. Probably you want to say a few words about yourself and present yourself, if you're comfortable with that.
No problem. So are you talking about me, yeah?
Yes.
So in Russian, I think our names are Yelena, yeah?
Oh, it's always complicated with the names. It's a very long story. I don't want to start it.
Yeah, actually, I am Yelena, but according to my passport, yeah, it's translated into Belarusian. I mean, English version translated from Belarusian language. That's why I'm Alena. So anyway, I'm very happy to be here today with you. Well, speaking about this Ukrainian calling program, it's for us, for all of us, it was very useful, interesting, and we are looking forward for further cooperation and meeting with experts, with people from different organizations and masterclass. This a good added value to this program. Yeah. So about myself, I represent International Public Association of Environmentalists. It's NGO. We are based in Belarus, so some of our members are now abroad. I am still here in Minsk. So, and we are dealing with issues of sustainable urban planning, civil society engagement in urban planning, in urban development, and making this rising urban literature of citizens, advocating their interests, and so on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Yelena, Alena. Thank you. If there are anybody else who would like to present himself or herself, sharing the screen, who would be comfortable with that. I'm just waiting, as always, counting 1, 2, 3. If not yet, it's completely okay. For the next short getting to know, energizing, I would like still ask you to turn on your cameras. You don't have to speak, but we will play a bit together, just to come together as a group and just to see who is here. So for the next activity, I would ask you, people on Zoom, to turn on your cameras right now. And it goes pretty easy. It goes like an energizer. If you remember energizers in offline world. Oh, it's so nice to see the faces now. Great, thank you for that. If you remember about energizers in offline world, there is one very popular one, which is calling everybody who is change the places. Yeah, you know, like when somebody is telling everybody who is drinking coffee right now, change the places and so on. And this works the same way, but we just have to close the cameras, which means I would say everybody who is drinking coffee right now, please close the cameras. And if you're drinking coffee, you're doing like that. You can try it. We can try it. Everybody who is drinking coffee right now, who is having coffee on his or her table, please close the cameras. We can see your fingers, the fingers of each other. Cool. Or probably the next question, everybody for whom this Zoom is not the first one for today, please close the cameras. So it means we're all pretty fresh. It gives a lot of hope. Okay. Everybody who managed to have breakfast today, please close the cameras. I see the team with open cameras. Okay, thank you. But at least participants, you could manage it. It's very good. Everybody who is coming to this workshop with a very concrete question, please close the cameras. You probably already have the question you want to ask the experts, then close the camera. Okay. And everybody who is interested in the topic rather generally and is open for everything what will come, please close the cameras. Great, thank you, Irina. I am also very happy to see our experts closing the cameras on this moment. Thank you so much. Thank you for showing the faces. It's very important, and it's especially important for our experts. We would start with that. We will work the following way, that we will have 3 speeches in the beginning, and in the second half we would have the possibility to work more practically with practical questions with our speakers. On this moment, we will finish the Facebook streaming. We will work only in Zoom. So we will have the more frontal part and more interactive part. So for you to be prepared. And now, starting with the experts part, I would start to present the first speaker who will be speaking today. And the first speaker is Anish Talford. She's joining us from Germany. Apropos, Anne asked that she is very much welcoming participants to turn on their cameras to speak to you and not just to the screen. So I'm happy that some of you have done it, and you are just welcome to keep the cameras on if you're comfortable with that. I would like to say a few words about Anne and about what she is having to share with you. Like about Anne, there are like several special things. So Anne is coming from a German NGO, which is called Arbeiterkind e.V. And this NGO is having a very exciting mission from my point of view. When I heard about that, I thought, oh, it's so interesting, and why we don't have it in Ukraine, as far as I know. This NGO is actually fundraising and promoting kids from the families without academic background to have their first university degree in the family. And when I heard about that, I thought like immediately, oh, it's about me, because I'm the person who had like the first university degree in the family since 3 generations. And I think it's also a very important work what this organization is doing. Anna is the head of fundraising in this NGO. She's fundraising big campaigns. As far as I know, she has also experience in fundraising campaigns with around 1 million euro and more, as far as I know. And this NGO is also fundraising with small donations, but also with bigger campaigns. So now enough from me. I would give the word over to Anne to speak about her experiences. And Anne, we would have around 15-20 minutes for your presentation now. Is it okay?
Yeah, that's okay. So, hello everyone. Thank you for the very nice introduction, Aljona. I will try to squeeze everything I learned about fundraising in 20 years into 20 minutes now. That's quite a challenge. And you see my agenda in the back, it's hanging on the wall. And when I talked about something, I will take it down. And I hope in 20 minutes, the wall will be empty. As Aljona already said, I am a fundraiser. In Germany, I never call myself a fundraiser, because if I call myself a fundraiser, then people who need money want to talk to me. So if I present myself and my job in Germany, I always say, I'm the one who cares about the donors at Arbeiterkind.de. I'm the one who tries to find financial support for Arbeiterkind.de. But in Germany, I don't call myself a fundraiser. You can think if there's a similar thing in your countries, that the profession has a bit of a dubious reputation. I am fundraising for Arbeiterkind for 8 years now. And as Aljona said, it is a community organization, a community of so-called first-generation students. If one of your parents has a university degree, then in Germany, your chances to go to university are 3 times higher, as if none of your parents had a university degree. So higher education in Germany depends a lot on your parents, and Arbeiterkind tries to be the missing academic parent or the missing academic brother or the aunt or the uncle to the school students who are interested in higher education. Arbeiterkind works with 6,000 volunteers all across Germany. So a very important message is most of our work is done by volunteers. It's not paid. We don't have to raise any money for it. That's fantastic. And it works because the volunteers are students and they go to schools and say, I'm the first in my family who made it to university and I will tell you my story. And this story gives others encouragement and hope. So 6,000 volunteers, till we need to raise about 2 million euro per year. To get this, I would say, Germany-wide volunteer network going and to do PR and a bit of lobby work and to pay 25 paid staffers. 25 paid staffers. So you get an idea of what we are doing, and that's not my work. All 25 staffers have to do fundraising too. That's very important. I would never agree to work in an organization where fundraising isn't done by everyone. And even the 6,000 volunteers play a role in fundraising because they are constant ambassadors for the organization, spreading the message that we need time and money. And of course, better chances for first generation students. So much about me. My first agenda item would be, I want to shift the focus from how to get money a step back to how to come closer to your vision and to your goal. Because sometimes the goal or the vision can be reached with other tools or less money. So the moment you have already drafted a project, make sure the project is really the right activity to come closer to your vision and to your goal. Because otherwise fundraising doesn't make so much sense. Then you're just focusing on getting the projects done. In my example, for instance, we could have had the project to find money to employ 100 consultants for first generation students at German universities, and that would have cost at least 10 million euro. And by deciding to have the work done by a community of volunteers, the whole vision became much less costly. That was very helpful to us. So what I would always recommend from my experience, try to work with a community of volunteers and try to give your core services for free. Because then you don't have to do fundraising. It's not always possible, but if you need constant money for your core services, you will be under constant fundraising pressure. And when you have no money, your organization is dead. While if you have a community of volunteers, your organization is not dead if you have no money. Okay. I tried to be really, really fast. So So that's again, check if you really need money or if something else is missing. And check if you need money once or for long term. And if you definitely need money, and if you need money more than once, then your first task is to build a supporters community. Because without the supporters community, you might win one grant, or you might win a second grant, or even a third grant. But in my experience, it's not a long-term strategy. You need a community of people bringing you into the lines for potential government funding, maybe even from other countries. You need a community of supporters opening doors at many, many foundations, not just at one. You need a big community of supporters to fill your volunteer positions when people develop other interests. You need a community of supporters telling your target group that you are there and you can already, you can offer services. So if you need money more than once without a community, in my experience, it doesn't work. Oops, okay. Then that's what I already said. Vision first, activities second. Sometimes social enterprises start with a project, and the project is not really clearly linked to a vision behind it. The vision is actually what you want the world to be when your work is done. In my case, I would say when it does no longer matter if your parents have an academic degree, if the percentage of non-academic children at universities equals the percentage of non-academic families in the population, then our work is done and we can close the shop, and our projects will be anything working towards that vision. So vision first, project second, and then everyone is on the fundraising team, like dozens and dozens of ambassadors. That is sometimes very hard to communicate because, as someone in the beginning said, oh, fundraising is so painful. Nobody wants to be in the team pain. This is why I think you need 1, 2, 3 people in your team who like fundraising and you have a kind of, I would say, a sporty or fun attitude towards it, and see it as community building, community of supporters, and then maybe this positive attitude towards the not so painful thing might disappear. It can also help. That's something I sometimes do when I try to persuade new team members that fundraising is good for everyone. I take a note of money, in this case, and I tear it apart. And I say fundraising is not about money first, it's about trust building and community. And then the money will follow. And then everyone gets excited and asks, yeah, why did you destroy the money? So I can glue it back. I can still pay with it in the shop. But it's about community building. If you need money long term, so the community you can build around a shared vision and identity. In my case at Arbeiterkind, it's like someone said in the beginning, oh, I read about your job and I actually thought that's about me. Yeah, I'm also a first generation student. I'm the first with a university degree in my family. Other NGOs are also quite often bringing a community together. For instance, I've been, for a long time, I've been a part of a trans community in Berlin. It was LGBT people first, and then it became a trans organization. And people, I would say, who are in gender trouble, they shared the identity, and the community was formed almost automatically. People who share a vision of a better world, or people who suffer from something, share an identity. And these people are your community, and you find these people then in the government. Yeah. In our case, the first generation students in the government who can help us to get governmental grants. The first generation students in the foundations who can help us to get foundation grants. The first generation students in the companies who can get us company donations. And of course, the thousands and thousands of first generation students who work as volunteers for the organization and apply for the paid positions. So that the community is usually about a shared vision, how you want the world to be, or about a shared identity, or both. That's a big fundraising tool, from my experience. So Now money. Oh yeah, and then there is a fantastic fundraising tool. This is why I start to undress now. That is making yourself visible. It's a t-shirt. For instance, this one. On the t-shirt is the logo of Arbeiterkind and a German claim. It means for everyone who are the first in their family to attend university. I really get mad if my colleagues don't wear the t-shirt when they are working. Yeah, and I want the 6,000 volunteers to wear the t-shirt when they go into schools, and that is fundraising. Yeah, spread the message. And if it is a t-shirt or a hoodie or something else, but you have to be visible. For instance, if you're in a meeting like this and somebody asks you, you can present yourself on the screen, don't be shy, take the opportunity. And then you can also say what your organization needs. A big fundraising tool in my case was that I more or less forced my colleagues, if they presented Arbeiterkind, not to say, we are a community of first generation students in Germany, or we are the biggest community of first generation students in Germany. I want them to say, we are a donation-based community of first generation students in Germany, and people donate time and money. And this little word donation-based, spendenfinanziert, in German language, that made a huge difference to our fundraising strategy, because from that moment on, everybody who talked about Arbeiterkind also conveyed the message that we need donations, donations of time and donations of money. Made a big difference. Didn't cost us any money. It was just switching in the brain. Okay, I am fast. So if you're budgeting, in any budget, I think you need 10 to 20% free money, money that is not tied up in a project or tied up to a certain activity. And to me, every free euro counts really 5 times. If you have free money, you can develop capacity. You can hire people to run the show. You can pay non-project related activities. So if you're only suffering from this illness that is called projectitis, and you don't have free money, it will be very hard to get the work done. And free money is usually not hidden in grants. It can be if you ask for it, some percentage. Free money that is donations by private individuals, donations by company, that is membership fees. It's people donating their honoraries. It's people asking for a donation and not for a gift to their 50th birthday. It's a lot of financial support not tied to a project. And you can also try to write capacity building grants, not project related grants, but grants targeted to build the capacity of your social movement or your organization. So 10 to 20% free money, that is really a fundraising goal, not in euro, but in percent. Then, of course, I think you all know you have the big 3 of fundraising strategies: individual donations, grant writing, and governmental support. I think I'm telling nothing new to most people here. There are other strategies which sometimes are better for free money. That can be events and fundraisings, yeah, from birthdays to weddings and company jubilees and other things, people donating fees and honoraries. It can be tying online shopping to donations with Amazon Smile and others, if you have a huge community. It can be country-specific donations, like giving 1% of your income tax to a registered charity in your country. It's not possible in Germany, but you can do it in Hungary and Romania, and I don't know about the other countries. So there are some other tiny fundraising strategies which in your country might be very successful to get the free money. Okay, almost done. If you work voluntarily, and most of you will do it at least for a period in their life, do it explicitly, so say it. This is not paid work, and with an exit strategy. So if you work as a volunteer, like make a plan for yourself, like I will work so many hours and for so many months and years. And if by then I haven't found another job or I haven't found a paid employment, I will do someone else. I think if you pay people for their work, pay them fairly and adequately to other paid jobs. So don't make people, you know, stuck in a shitty paid NGO job for 10 years and tell them it is good and for fair payment because it is such a lovely NGO. I think that's not fair. Then it's better to be a volunteer, yeah, and work less and find a job elsewhere with a fair payment. And this is what I already said. Try not to get lost in projectitis, like one pilot project, then the next pilot project, and then the third pilot project. And it's not a pilot project anymore, and everyone knows it, but you're trying to describe it differently because you think the donors like it. I also think that's not a sustainable fundraising strategy. So I think that was 18 minutes or so. Yeah. I'm done, and I'm very open if you say, I totally don't agree. I made different experiences. This might work in Germany in your NGO, but not in my case. So I'm very happy if people contradict me.
I can say I totally loved it.
Thank you. But
You're a very good presenter.
Please.
I actually think maybe everything is said. Maybe I should go to some fundraising using your advices. You mentioned many things. I think I will also touch them maybe in different order, but and especially thanks for this point on free money. This is really counterintuitive maybe for many people, like because there is project, there is boundaries, and you don't think outside of that. And that point actually you made about this, it's about like think beyond what's already on the table.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. It's perfect timing. Thank you, Irina, for your also short feedback on that. I would like to use this chance shortly asking you whether you want to go next then, or you want to always stay with the order as we agreed. You could?
Yeah, I could, yeah.
Yeah? Okay,
yeah.
Oksana,
Okay.
is it okay for you then? Yeah, cool, great. So thank you, Anna. Then we will have the next speaker soon. And I would just encourage those of you who are together with us in Zoom, we are more and more people right now, just to write down your questions and to think all of this time which one of the experts you want to join in a breakout room for a practical session after these speeches. Probably you will have the most amount of questions to one of the experts. You will have the possibility, those of you who are together with us on Zoom will have the possibility to discuss those questions together with the experts very, very soon. And now we will go to the second speaker. It's all going very liquid organically and changing a lot, which is nice because it's live. We have here Irina Solovey, who also reacted immediately also to the things which Anna was talking about. Irina is founder of Spilno Kosht. This is the biggest crowdfunding platform in Ukraine and one of the first ones. As far as I know, Ira, you know better the history, what was first and what was second. Ira is for me, is a great visionary speaker who is the one who can speak about the trends when they are just appearing and just grasp the trends. And that's why I would just give the floor to Irina for the next 15-20 minutes for her speech and would encourage you, as I said before, to write down your questions and also to think about whom from the speakers I would like to join later on. Ira, please go ahead. I hope everything will work out with the screen sharing.
I'll try now and tell me if you can see it.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah?
Okay, so I will just make it here. Okay, so but I need to see somebody, at least you, Alena, and maybe I will ask you for some assistance when you see my time is coming up. Just wave a hand or show me a finger so I become aware of it also.
Sure.
Thank you. So, Garage Gang, we are a social innovation organization, NGO in Ukraine. We were formed as a group, creative group in 2008, registered in 2009, and by now it's already almost 12 years. And at this moment, we are the organization that is self-sustained. It means we cover the costs that are related to our operations, team, communications, partnerships with the funds that are formed in the first place by the returns on the platform Big Idea that we founded in 2009, actually. And from this position that we already made it, sort of, because now we have a new strategy and we again feel like newbies. I can talk about how we approached fundraising. I think that most important to know about fundraising that it's not working in the vacuum. It's strongly related to activities you want to make. And I think one of the main reasons maybe we actually made it as an organization because we started 2 people and 100 ideas, and now we have a team, the 4th kind of constellation ensemble, already like 12 people, and it's normally our size, because we were at the center of our own story. What I mean by that, we didn't look out for somebody to give out money and try to serve that proposition. We were coming up with our own thinking, with our own ideas, with our own projects, and engaging donors and delivering. And that because our thinking was, if we have a good reputation, it will at one point work for us. And what is the difference also between, for example, between the example that Anna gave, when you have an organization with one central goal, we are the organization, social innovation, you need to be acting in time and place spirits, meaning that you move ahead, you discover what's necessary, you design how this can be facilitated in the society, and you go ahead with the program that assists citizens to develop that capacity that it is necessary for us as a society to move closer to our dreams, to our values, to our aspirations. And this might be difficult for some because and it can be different because, for example, if you have a central goal, then it's more about how to make people relate to that goal. When we have every certain phase, we have a different kind of goal. It can be challenging, and that's why we always thought of our approach as a competence-based. And now we'll switch to another image that you can see. We have now, it's a tool developed for cooperation of different NGOs in Ukraine based on our research of communities, based on our research of fundraising strategies. And it suggests that any social system, is it a team, is it an organization, is it a community, is it a company, actually in order to grow, in ecosystem logic, I mean, organically based on the inner capitals, goes through this cycle. A cycle which you see on the image as a data mining is about working with studying information, and usually I would advise to start from here. Position of developing a strategy, a vision. This is our, for example, position, and what's this? The main idea I want you to take from here is that you, as a leader or as a team member, probably have your natural capacity to lead with different style, and it's good you learn about that style, maybe with this instrument, maybe with some other instrument that allow you to be with everything you do at the center of your own story. So if you want to be successful in fundraising for your projects, for your organization, you really need to know yourself, because this tendency will, are you working with them consciously, unconsciously, will create certain shifts in the organizations, and you will tend to work and organize your work from your natural maximum, your natural potential. So knowing your natural potential allows you to focus on things you do the best and attract people that complement your position, and then you can grow together. And it's very important because fundraising, and then once you get the resources, implementing the projects, once you implemented the projects, making next strategy is exhausting, and you need to be connected to your life-giving forces. And to make that connection, you need to really understand yourself and act from your personal strengths. And develop your strategies, organizational strategies, especially if you're a leader in the organization like me, being conscious of where you tend to take your people, and also understand other people better once you understand yourself good, and then you can complement each other, and then the synergy, your love comes out. That's one thing. Another thing, I noticed that in the chat, some people were commenting that we have in Ukraine and in Germany different volunteer and crowdfunding charity culture, and in the point of 2021, I partially agree, but from the point of 2009 when we started, nothing was in place. People didn't know what crowdfunding is. People were quite cynical and not engaged. And everything we have now, it's a work of many organizations for the last 10 years who were ready to start where they are. And why I think it's quite reasonable and maybe safe in terms that it will work, because people are, I cannot say the same everywhere, but you have certain universal approaches, and in terms we want to be appreciated, we want to invest our time, effort in something that might work, that has a chance for success. We want ethical exchange. This is the fundamental thing. And when you fundraising is, it's not about money. It's first of all about relationships. That's how we see it. And when you are up for fundraising, it means you will have to develop certain relationships, and that's the effort you have to make. And you doing the research of crowdfunding platform and strategies of the projects, and talking to givers and to authors of the projects, we discovered that there are 4 dimensions that any giver, donor, investor goes through. Actually, we also go through these dimensions when we invest in our study. We go through the same thinking. And first thing we ask ourselves as a potential donor, potential giver, or supporter of crowdfunding projects is, how is this related to me? How is this story is my story also? And that's why you need to to practice and to find how to tell your story short, just the essence of the story. So first thing, when you share it, other people can relate to this, and then you have their attention. If they don't get your story and cannot find how it's related to them, then there will not even a thought about money, donation, or support in terms of time or knowledge or network or some other maybe forms, like a gift of space. Sometimes it's also a good support. The second dimension is, in a simple question, why this project? Well, 10 years ago, or 12 years ago, we didn't have so many projects, and everything you did was already fun, and people would easily engage, and it was I don't know, very, very convenient, comfortable environment to work. There is nothing. You create something, people, oh, let's do something, and you have activity. But now, 10 years later, we have only on our platform, it's simultaneously 40 projects are fundraising with their communities, and it's already a choice. And that's why you need to help these people to understand why this project. And I believe the best way to do it is to tell what will be achieved with the support of the community. So without that goal, where you go in when you want to bring all this community to a certain point, you need to really be able to articulate this, because this helps the potential donors and givers to stay on your side. The third is when actually just the first thought appears. So how much money I want to give, and the amount of money will strongly depend on what homework you have done. You need to show that you came prepared, that you've done your part, or you have a plan to do your part, and you actually, this is the part we will do, and with your support we will be able to deliver it faster, with better quality, or with greater visibility. Whatever is, you need to define a role for your supporter. They want to do it together with you. They're not interested to be viewed as a bag of money, and you come, knock on the door, they take the money, go away. They actually, when it's given in an ethical way, it means it's relationship. So you form in this relationship, and you need to show what part is done by you in this relationship. And the last is very important and often overlooked is appreciation. When you show this, that you value the contribution, and it's very important to close the cycle of ethical exchange. The person who gives the money, especially if it's a significant amount of money, they intellectually understand that they influenced in certain way your project. But unless you come to them and relate back that your contribution helped us achieve this and this and this, for them, this is not a closed case. And your relationship will become weaker and maybe disappear, and it will be difficult for both sides, because one side wanted this ethical exchange, but it not happened, and they think maybe I should not engage in any relationship with these people again. And then for you, it means every time if you did not make this appreciation step, you will every time start from scratch. So if you want to build community that is your social capital, that also from time to time can become a source of financial capital, intellectual capital, maybe network or something else, you need to close with them this cycle of exchange in the ethical way. And this is to demonstrate your appreciation of their contribution, especially by saying what exactly you were able to achieve with their support, because this gives true satisfaction to givers, and they renew their desire to give more and again. And okay, the last one is also a big thing we teach with our crowdfunding workshops for our platform. This is the circles of engagement. It's an image, so it's in Ukrainian, but I will explain. The red circle is a circle of trust. We advise authors of the projects to engage, first of all, on the crowdfunding platform. Oh my God. People that already know you, know that you can be trusted, but at the same time, I need to make one step back. And first of all, you need to be able to engage your team. If, for example, only one or two people on your team believe in crowdfunding, and the rest of the team thinks it's too risky, it's not what they comfortable with doing, and they will give a vague or negative feedback to whoever will be able by chance asking them, your team is fundraising on crowdfunding, like big idea or some other, and they, yeah, but I don't know what will come out of it. These people who will be that do this little research investigation most likely will not support your project. So first of all, you need to have this engagement and agreement in your team. Even if people choose, for example, not to be active on this, they need to understand why you're doing this, why you need the community, and why you use crowdfunding as a way to build this community. So then you can go to people who know you and engage them first, because people who do not know you, they need these signals that you can be trusted. Then the lightest green circle is an expert circle. This very important to approach people who understand the scene you are working with, your topic, your subject, and get their feedback about your strategy, about your approach, because this helps people to answer this question, why this project, and what kind of amount of money I want to contribute. And then there's the more darker green circle, and this is we call the circle of success. This is actually when you approach people who do not know you and who do not know your scene, your subject, and they might not necessarily want to go deeper on your subject, but they see you doing something great, and they require the signals from the first circle of trust, that you can be trusted, from the second circle of expert, that what you're doing has a chance for success, and then these people from the third circle of success. Why we call it the circle of success? Because we know that motivation of these people is to be part of your success. So it's very important. In Ukraine, it was a cultural shift in that sense, that you cannot communicate on crowdfunding, at least, as an effective victim, because we are the poorest, we are the weakest, we are the hardest hit or something, and that's why you need to support them. You really need to communicate for fundraise from your capacity, your strengths, your talent, your competence position, and the communication goes like, let's join our efforts. We will bring competence, experience, team to implement it. You can join in easy and comfortable way by making a donation, and we will achieve together whatever is the goal of the project. I don't know what's at the time. I wanted to show you it's in Ukrainian, but just to, this is preliminary research. We're improving it now. We analyzed different crowdfunding platform in Ukraine and participatory budget. And this just to show you what amount you can raise on crowdfunding platform, and you can see if it will make up for 10-20% of free money or not. But it's still, even if you have at least, like, for example, I don't know, 5,000 euros of not committed money, and it gives you the space for maneuver, and you need to have it anyway. So the bigger, the larger, the better. But make sure there is an activity in your fundraising strategy that allows you to have this. And crowdfunding in Ukraine, for example, it's because it's not a store of pre-sale in certain sense, it's really community building platform, the easiest and the most democratic way to get this free money, and it can be up to 200,000 hryvnias. I would not be able to quickly switch it to euros or something, but also we got partners from business and international funds who match these funds. So authors of the projects, leaders of the organization fundraise a certain amount, and then a business or a fund will match sometimes by the model 1-to-1. If you raise 10,000 euros, they will add 10,000 euros. Sometimes, like for example, we worked with Ukrainian Cultural Fund. It was they tripled the raised amount. So if you raise, for example, 100,000 hryvnias, they would add to your project more of 300,000 hryvnias. And it's true that I will stop sharing now that fundraising is relationships, and if you care about this relationship and develop them and invest in them, and first of all invest empathy and attention, out of that will grow your community. That will give you social capital, because financial capital, it always tends to run towards zero. Whatever you do, it disappears at some point. And social capital, on the contrary, if you work with it carefully and attentively, it grows. And like Rama said, you have a community of volunteers, even if you don't have no money. So you have a community of givers. With crowdfunding, for example, you have a community of givers with even if when you don't have the money out, you're out of money, but you think, and it gives it's in support of crowdfunding. Use it because it gives you visibility. It gives you good negotiation positions with donors, because you can show that your team is capable of mobilizing community, capable of proving the value of your project to people, and people actually make already an action on to support your project. This is not even like, you know, likes or yes, we are aware that there is such organization. They actually do something. And when people come to act on your project, this is already a real thing, a physical thing, and it's that's why it's important to care about relationship that emerge from this, because when people take risk and give you money up front, you need to respond with delivering on that trust, and that will help you. And another thing is, of course, the style of the leadership, but my style of the leadership was that we never spend money, we always invest money. It means like, if we have 20,000 euros, for example, from certain donors, because of course with this situation we have now, we build it with support of donors, but we would always invest this money. It means like, if we are given trusted by donors of 20,000 euros, we will invest them in a way that will unlock for us the possibilities to engage 200 euros that we will invest again. And over 10 years, we come to the point when this investment brought us to financial autonomy, self-worth. It's very important in this civil society work. And now we're also able to share this experience, learn with new authors of the project, new aspects of crowdfunding. And now we see that it did create a culture of giving in Ukraine, which is for us the most rewarding understanding, because that was our purpose at the beginning. I hope I didn't take too much time.
Thank you. Actually, we are perfectly in time, in timing. Thank you, Irina. Thank you so much. You know, I was writing the quotes from our speakers while they were speaking. What I have written down from Irina is, I'm just looking on another screen. That's why I'm looking like that. While fundraising, you're always staying in the center of your story. This is my quote from Irina. My quote from Anna is, I would never agree to work in an organization where fundraising is not done by everyone. And I'm already excited to get to know which quote would I write from Oksana, inviting Oksana here on the stage. Oksana will speak, I assume, from the perspective of NGOs. Oksana is an independent expert, is an expert on feminism, on gender, is an expert on constructive pedagogy. You probably, some of you or many of you could know Oksana as a person affiliated with the Theatre for Change and with different practices of theatre of oppressed for nonviolent change and so on. But Oksana has a wide range of experiences working with NGOs, which she would share in her speech right now. Oksana, I give you the floor. Welcome. And as always, 15 to 20 minutes. And also, once more reminding people here on Zoom, just also start to reflect whom of the experts you would like to join in the second part of the workshop. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Alona. First of all, it's a real pleasure and honor to be here in such company and to follow such speakers. This is the first time for me speaking about this at a workshop after actually a big break. So it's kind of a comeback for me after taking a pause as for an academic reflection after a year of doing a master's degree. And maybe what I will say now, sort of contrasting the previous two presentations, which I'm sure were useful and helpful. Maybe what I will say sound pessimistic to some of you. Feel free to disqualify any of what I say that doesn't relate to your experience. But I realized when I was kind of noting down my bullet points, I don't have a PowerPoint, but I have a couple of maybe examples or images to screen share. We'll see how it goes. And I wish that when I started my activism and my NGO journey, there was a voice that was telling me things that I know now that I didn't know at the beginning, and that would tell me that pretty much the system is fucked. It doesn't really work on a long term for a lot of formats that we need. And it took me a long time personally as an activist and as somebody who was invested in fundraising and developing an organization to realize that I wasn't going crazy, and that in the context of Ukraine, which I'm speaking to mostly from the practical experience, it wasn't me, or not just me. There's always a personal level of self-reflection, learning, but it was also the system itself that encourages you towards certain practices, behaviors, ways of thinking that is not necessarily supportive of you being you staying in the center of your story, as Irina said very, very powerfully, or you supporting your team and being sustainable. And I think my activism and my sort of analytical background is from critical studies and from critical perspective. And it doesn't mean that I just always come and criticize everything, although it sounds like it sometimes. It means that in my analysis of any situation, I look at both individual contributions and at systemic reasons for what is going on, and also for power relations in the society that affect access and possibility for some people and less access and possibility for others. And this will be a kind of position from which I speak about some of the things today. As Alona mentioned, the organization that I have most of my grassroots experience with is Theatre for Dialogue. And I'm still associate myself with this organization, but it kind of took a pause conveniently also during lockdown, because a lot of our activity was in person, and I just couldn't imagine transferring theater online, although I know some organizations have done it very successfully. And it also coincided with me kind of taking a break. And some of the team started doing other things. Even though I really support and agree with the idea that fundraising in the long run is about community building, sometimes it's also about making sure people put food on the table. And when you stop making money for sustainable programs and projects, or someone in your organization stops that, organizations fall apart, teams go away, people find other jobs, because let's face it, many of us are doing it full-time or want to do it full-time, and we don't have other sources of income. Many of us have to pay rent or feed our children, and it's kind of that kind of perspective in activism and in NGO work that actually has to do with our position as employees or people who employ others, that I think we often forget to take, because in at least in Ukraine, I come from a generation of people who after Maidan sort of started doing something for developing the country. There was a lot of enthusiasm, there was a lot of I don't know what it's going to be, I don't know how long it's going to last. In the beginning it was a lot of just that. Then you start building your strategy, you start building your organization. But also from the research that I have done, the last 2 years, I've worked more with researching women's and feminist and LGBT movements in terms of their needs and challenges. And this is a common thread. People come to do this kind of work because they genuinely want to invest in change. And you don't think about it as a career or as a, your professional development, at least in the beginning. But then wanting this work to be sustainable because you genuinely believe it in, and because you genuinely want your the kind of change that you're bringing to society to last, you start to think about, okay, how do I actually sustain myself and the people that I'm hiring in the team? And I can't just expect them to keep doing this work on evenings and weekends, and free time, etc., etc. And I want to acknowledge that the context I'm speaking to is mostly related to the relationships with bigger donors in Ukraine. I know and I appreciate crowdfunding. Our organization also used this platform for one of our first projects. I want to just say that from reality that I know, organizations that want to kind of live and do bigger projects with bigger impact in terms of scope, in my understanding, in Ukraine, larger international donors are still the biggest source of funding for that. And at least my analysis comes to relationships with these organizations. So that's also the limitation of the context I'm speaking to. And my most recent research, I cannot unfortunately fully share it yet, but it has to do with analysis of a program that supports feminist movements in Ukraine, and feminist organizations showed that actually the more you get into kind of the culture of project management and fundraising that large and big organizations encourage you to get drawn into, the more risks there are, in fact, for you as a team or as an organization to step away from what you originally intended to do. And here I would again echo Irina to say in saying that I think it's incredibly important to keep coming back to your values and your understanding and analysis of what kind of changes you want to bring in society, because otherwise people who give money and give them oftentimes on their own conditions may willingly or unwillingly kind of impose their vision of change onto your context or onto your country. And it is always about dialogue. It is always about negotiations. The only thing I would say that you shouldn't forget about power imbalances in dialogue. It's much harder to have an easy and honest dialogue with somebody who is sitting on a pot of money and wants to give it away, and you know that you are depending on them, or that you need their money, right? So finding a place from which you can genuinely speak about what you are doing, and actually internally allowing yourself, giving yourself the freedom not to take the money from that organization or from that donor, I think is a very important position. And it's not an easy one to get to. I also want to acknowledge that, because I'm someone who comes from an organization that is considered what is called a community-based organization as well. And Anna spoke to that. And I've also researched and worked with organizations that represent vulnerable groups like themselves. And this is where I think it's important to acknowledge that some of us, or some groups in society, have less resources to start with than others. And it's not always easy to have this super strong position. Oh, we are cool. Oh, we are amazing. You want to give us money, great. You don't want to give us money, great. For some organizations, activism and change in society is a matter of, ensuring better security. Feminist and LGBT activism in Ukraine, for example, as some of you may know, is one of the most dangerous types of activism right now. It is a source of threats and risks. It responds to a very concrete, risk in society in general, and sometimes it's traumatic as well. And it's kind of difficult to be always chill and cool in that kind of work. And at the same time, understanding that the organizations that give money and support projects are genuinely interested in supporting you. They are there, to build connections as well. They are not, your enemies, even though I may kind of talk about it like what I think for me was one of the most useful understandings in this process. is that the place where you are located in terms of your material reality and your activist reality defines the way you see this reality. And people who give money coming from big organizations have blind spots about your reality and about your understanding of what you need, that they cannot have this knowledge because they are not positioned where you are positioned. They do not run an organization on a daily basis. They do not face the same challenges as you do, especially if you are doing kind of frontline activism or dealing with backlashes or changes. And in my understanding, part of fundraising or part of actually looking for genuine long-term support is not just about building community. I fully agree with that. It's also about seeing that as a strategy of resistance towards a kind of vision that can come from people who are managing this project, and they genuinely think that they have an understanding of what the field looks like, of what you need and what you don't need. You don't need that extra hedge fund in your project budget, that loose money. Why? We cannot account for it. And for me, for example, part of the process was learning to understand that I know my needs and my organization knows our needs better than people who design call for proposals, than people who distribute money, and that we have every authority to speak about our needs, and that we need to invest our efforts in reflecting about our needs, because we can also have some blind spots. I'll just give you a couple of examples because I see that my time is running. One very small example. One of the groups that our organization worked with intensively was the internally displaced women at the beginning of conflict in Ukraine. And we were conducting community workshops, and participation was based on calls for invitation, Facebook announcements, word of mouth. And at a certain point in the project, we realized some people were sending us applications. And in the notes section, they were mentioning, I wish I could come, but I'm a single mother and I have no one to leave my child with. And I cannot attend your workshop, even though it sounds very exciting. And we could have just dismissed it or said, unfortunately, in the kind of this kind of spirit of learning what the needs are, and the needs are more important than resources, we started to think about, okay, how many of the group that we are working with are actually in this situation? Do we want to include them? Do we want to make sure that their needs are considered? Is it part of our vision? And we actually realized that we want to find money in our project to create spaces for daycare of children of these women during the workshop. And we got back to them saying, thank you for voicing your need, because they also could have just not shown up, right? They could have not applied, they could have not said anything, but they communicated their need to us. We found the resources. And later on, we communicated back to our donor that we need a concrete line in the budget going forward for when we work with this group, or in general, when we work as a feminist organization in projects and events, that sometimes we may need a nanny. And we want to be able to have money for that. And we know that in our case, it was a women's rights organization that was funding us. They supported it. I know that not every donor still approves this kind of budget line in, in their programming. And this is where you either, agree or disagree to accept their money, you find your resources. But this is a very small example of how putting needs in front of the logic of the project leads to possible changes of your actual project plan, your actual project budget, and hopefully in the future of the logic itself. Another example of such needs, coming to specifically, the organization and the team, is working hours and labor of your staff, which if you reflect on the way donor logic is structured and donor projects are often structured versus our realities, you probably also have a lot of gaps between these sort of fundings where projects end and start, you are expected to do, or your staff expected to do things unpaid. And there are many ways to cover that up. I know part of it is smart financial planning. Part of it is having overlaps. I'm sure some of you who have been around for longer than myself and my team have found ways to do that. Another way to do that is to actually bring attention to this work and to recognize that we are, the way this system is designed, we are expected in a way to account, or to not account for a lot of unpaid work, precarious work, and that it's sort of assumed and expected. And this is, I think, where my feminist analysis helps me, because a lot of feminist activism and research is about making this invisible economy of labor visible to society, because women have been doing for generations invisible unpaid work, and making that kind of work visible and recognizing it is part of a feminist approach as well. And I want to give you a nice example here. Let's see if I can share the screen. Actually, yeah, I can. Perfect. Now let me just find you what I need to share. 1 second. It's not my project in this case, but maybe some of you know organization Platforma 2 in Mariupol. It's an organization that works in the intersections of culture and human rights. And they had a project during the lockdown that was called Woven Networks. It was an online art project with women artists from different countries, where they reflected on lockdown realities. And the project itself is quite fascinating. I encourage you to go and look at the website. They have a gallery of art projects that they've created. But one of the things that they included in their gallery was actually recordings of the work process of designing the project, of planning it, and of collaboratively working on something. And that was, for me, is a way of making that work visible. During the presentation of, final presentation of the project, they actually shared some of the challenges and frustrations that they encountered as managers, as financial kind of decision makers. One of the examples they gave was when putting in budget lines for experts. It was a transnational project with experts from EU countries, Ukraine, and the organization that was funding them assumed that, or inputted or recommended them to include different honorarium for artists from EU, for example, Scotland, Germany, and a honorarium for Ukrainian artists. Maybe like twice or half as much, you know, because we are different economies, because we live in different contexts. Again, not necessarily such a big gap. The project manager's struggle was to actually fight to have equal salaries for all of these artists, because they are doing equal work. And there's no reason why they should be paid differently inside one project. But even those kinds of things, unless you fight for them, they are not assumed. And here again, we can debate, we can contest, but I'm coming from a position of that, the fact that when the system communicates something to us and we don't accept it, we don't always have resources to resist. But when we can, I think we should, because this is how we can actually make those blind spots visible, and hopefully change, in the long run, change the system. Because the more we talk about it, the more examples like this come up. So this is a screenshot of the project trying to schedule a call, right? And you can see how difficult it is of so many people. I'm sure many of you have done this, doodling, you know. This is another screenshot of Google Doc, like a live video of a Google Doc, 5 or 6 people working collaboratively on a project application and sharing that process together. And I think many of us can connect to this. And this is the kind of backside of all of the wonderful results and the beautiful project reports that we demonstrate, that is behind our work, and is often not seen to people who fund our work, but also to other activists. We think that somehow we are all managing, and it's all success stories. But I actually find connecting with each other around these challenges equally helpful, because as I said, then you stop thinking that you are crazy and it's not just you. So one of the last kind of takeaways that I'm taking from my research and communication with other organizations is that it's actually quite helpful when you talk about fundraising or donor relationships, to have spaces where you can talk about the frustrations and the challenges as well. So, and discussing what didn't work or you know, what's still not working. And kind of to finish my my presentation, I want to say that, like, I started with saying that I've transitioned from activism to research, and I'm honestly not 100% sure yet where I will go next. The organization that I'm affiliated with still exists, but it's kind of on pause right now. And one of my thoughts is, you know, maybe it could be useful, I'm still reflecting about it, to actually have it as a memory of a project that didn't work because of, in many regards, because of the context and because of the conditions of donor funding. And the reason I started to think that way is because I had a really interesting example in a museum where here in the UK, where I'm based right now, where the museum is reflecting on its own legacy and its own history. And they are taking away some of the like long-term exhibits, but instead of them just taking them away and not saying anything, they say, we used to have this kind of exhibit here, but now we think it's not ethical anymore to have it because of colonial past, etc., etc. And I want to ask you a question. You know, what do you think happened while this disappeared? So I think sometimes having a project that actually didn't work and not forgetting about it, not erasing it, but talking about it as an example of a failure of a system or example of a learning that you have made could be very positive. I think that's what I'm trying to do right now, together with you, being quite vulnerable. And I hope you found at least some of it useful. I look forward to discussions and questions in the smaller group. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Oksana. I think I've got my quote number 3, Oksana quote, which is, you should not forget about power dynamics in the dialogue with the donors. This is also, I'm also copying these quotes on Facebook. Thank you so much for these 3 speeches. Before we go on, and we still stay on Facebook for a few minutes, I would like to ask you guys to think, like, to grasp the first insights, thoughts, questions you have now in your heads after you listened to all of these speeches, and to click on the link on Menti you have now in your chat in Zoom. And I also copied this link under the streaming on Facebook. And let me start also this. Just a moment. I need a moment to start it. And just write down your first keywords. It would be impressions, questions, whatever, in whatever form you have it, there under this link. I'm also copying, if you need, here, give me a second, the number of voting. If you are asked to fill any number, you have it. You're writing it down and we'll see it in real time here on the screen. Please let me know in chat if it does not work for you. If it does, great. Yes, I see the first things coming. In this way, we could try to connect people being here in Zoom and people listening to us on Facebook, because under this link, everybody can fill in and we'll see it in real time. Don't sell yourself, but your vision. Supporters around us, this community of support, community of trust, are the first. Vulnerability. How do you go from 2-3 volunteers to a donation-based volunteer community with 6,000 ones? I think it's a question to Anna. Don't underestimate yourself, your project, or your organization when you're asking for money. Taking failures as positive learning. Thinking about vision first before getting active. Please go on. It's very exciting to see it. Wait for bit time we have it. We'll wait for it so that you can fill it in, because some of you probably filling it in via phone, some of you need a bit more time. Define a role of your supporters. Give them a role. Thank you. Thank you so much. I think it's a great start for us to go further. On this moment, we have one more. How often donor relations become abusive relations? Where should we get resources to resist? Yeah, it's getting more and more exciting and deep comments, so I would wait for a little bit more to see what is coming next. Thank you. Thank you. I think for now, that's it. And on this moment, I would like to thank all of our Facebook audience who stayed with us. There were some viewers who stayed the whole time here. Thank you. We will end our streaming right now and then continue.